Why are you running? And how do you feel about ICE?
In my case, those are related.
Yes. That's what, yes.
On some of your tables, you'll see a picture of my son and me in Afghanistan. My son was arrested by the FBI on the South Hill of Spokane for nonviolently protesting against ICE. He is currently being prosecuted by an illegally appointed U.S. attorney and is facing charges of conspiracy. And they want to send him to federal prison for 6 years or a $250,000 fine. So if you want to know, do I have an incentive to make some changes in the United States government? Yes. Yes, I do. But I also want to be clear that that is the catalyst. It is not the reason. When this happened to my son, I started traveling around this district. Now, y'all know this, that I didn't just fall off the turnip truck in politics, right? I managed 3 congressional campaigns before. I've worked in politics for many, many years. When I was 18 years old, I started a Young Democrats chapter down in Sonoma County, California, and I was interning for then Mayor Congresswoman Barbara Boxer. So this is not something that is entirely new to me. But anytime I ever thought, you know, I want to run for office, I just laid down. The feeling always went away. But when I traveled around the district telling people about this, because I think it's important, then I started getting the, well, you should run for Congress. And I kept getting that. What I was trying to do is spread the word about my son. Because I want everybody to know, this is not Minneapolis, this is not Portland, this is not Seattle, this is not Washington, D.C. This is right here in Eastern Washington. When Pam Bondi couldn't get the U.S. attorney to indict, she fired him. And then she brought in his second, Stacey Van Martyr. And then she indicted them, had them all arrested. And 2 weeks later, Pam Bondi fired her because she wasn't crazy enough for her. And she brought in Pete Serrano, who is crazy enough for Pam Bondi. All right? Now, Pete Serrano is past his 120 days. He is illegally appointed. He has never been confirmed by the United States Senate. He is sitting there on a mere memo written by Pam Bondi. That's why he's in that position. And Bob Gardner hasn't said a damn thing. Not a word. Your representative does more than just go to Washington, D.C. and write memos or new legislation. You know? You have your phone on you?
Yes.
Let's see that real quick. That's a nice phone. Y'all see this phone? It weighs 500 pounds.
What?
You know how I know it? Because Baumgartner never picks it up. The job of a representative is not to simply be a rubber stamp for Mike Johnson, and that's exactly what Baumgartner's doing. I want to riddle this. I know I'm going off the rails here a little bit here, but I want to let y'all know what's happening here, because I go and talk to a lot of folks and they say, well, you know, Baumgartner and Trump, Baumgartner and Trump. It's not Donald Trump. Michael Baumgartner is at the pinnacle of his elected career. He can never go any higher. He is not going to get elected to statewide office in Washington. And he knows that, because he's not stupid. Okay? So, that might be a matter of opinion to some of y'all, but I'm going to give him credit. I mean, he can tie a double Windsor and he went to Harvard. So, the thing is, is that he is actually being very, very crafty. He is 100% of the time with Mike Johnson. Why? Because the only place for him to go is up the Republican apparatus in the House of Representatives. He fancies himself as the Republican Tom Foley from Eastern Washington. That's how he sees himself. Look, I've met the guy. I mean, you know, nice enough guy. I don't think he lacks self-confidence. So, what was the question, Ronnie? I've gone off babbling.
No. You answered that question, and I think you did a great job of answering that question about why you wanted to run and how you feel about ICE.
Let me get to ICE real quick.
Yes.
All right, sorry. Now that's something I shouldn't have lost track of. I spent 2 solid years in Iraq, and when I was at the embassy, you have the 30,000 foot level of what's going on in that country. Tremendous amount of what we were doing there was capacity building, right? The transition to civil authority was our main jobs in both Afghanistan and Iraq. I'm not saying we did that particularly well, but that was the job. Now, ICE is a sick organization. It is beyond repair. Now, the thing is that what I don't like is when somebody says, well, abolish ICE. Remember what I said? Clean, concise, simple, and wrong? Yeah. All right? There are actual missions from that organization. If you don't understand how organizations work, how bureaucracies work, you have to be very, very careful when you just go in and you just want to take a big axe to part of the United States government. So the first thing that we have to do if you want to eliminate ICE, and I do, is you have to take the critical missions that agency performs and hand them over to other agencies. Border Patrol, FBI, ATF, whoever else is federal, US Marshals, and hand critical parts of that mission to them. And then every single member of ICE is to be fired. Every one of them. Furthermore, every one of their telephones, every one of their computers is to be confiscated and sent to the FBI for forensics and criminal activity. And then we have to have a new organization. And it has to be built from the ground up. And it cannot be bringing back any forgiven members of ICE. Even if they were not the bad guys themselves, they proved that they're willing to sit side by side with those who are. My son was shot with a plastic bullet when he was protesting in Spokane. ICE has since turned to 9mm. They are killing United States citizens in our cities. That's unconscionable. I want to go on a small tangent too. That's answering to ICE. I want to make something very, very clear. I'm for a very powerful and lethal United States Armed Forces. But you never use US troops on US soil against US persons. That is not the job of the United States Armed Forces. And that is the Posse Comitatus Act of the 1870s and the 1903 Militia Act, known as the Dick Act, on how we use our National Guard and our armed forces. That is absolutely critical if we're going to have a democracy.